Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. Well, what's up? This is one of the greatest times of year. We are here on the precipice, on the cusp of MLB playoffs. College football is in full gear. The NFL is starting to shake out who's going to be the competitive teams this year. I mean, I used to think the fall was my favorite time of year, but I can tell you it has changed. Living in Virginia Beach, having a pool. Give me the barbecue and the music and the pool all day. Summertime. Summertime. But fall is a close second.
Yeah. No, I'm still fall. I'm still team fall. Still team fall. Well, 110%.
Fall isn't the same. Yeah, fall isn't the same in Virginia Beach. Anybody who knows that, the fall is 80 degrees down here. And it feels more like a fummer or a sol. It's a mixture.
Yeah, it's good.
So let me, I want to tell the world something that they are looking, an answer they're looking for. I'm going to tell you the problem with college football. You ready for this? This is groundbreaking.
I'm ready.
Georgia was number one. Then they lost their number one seed to Texas, who was number one. And then Texas lost their number one seed this week to Alabama, who is now number one. Do you know the irony? Do you want me to tell you the irony of the fact that all these teams were number one and they've all gotten moved out of number one? Can I tell you the irony of it?
Hit me.
None of them lost. They never lost.
So they're just, wait.
So the fact you can win, because people don't know what they're doing. I am amazed at how people invest so much in, I love college football, I watch a ton of it, but how you invest so much into it that we know at the beginning of the year, Georgia is number one. There's no way anybody's better than them. They're number one. Well, if you win and you're number one and they were the best team, then aren't you contradicting yourself by moving them back because they didn't lose? And so if they haven't lost, they haven't done anything to show you they weren't number one. But now you're saying, well, this team actually looks better than Georgia based on this, and this. Did they win or not? Because how they look is actually nothing to do with their rank. You could look awful and win. To me, that's a sign of a good team. Last year, Florida State, were they one of the best teams? I don't think they were. Do I think they deserve to be in it? Yes. Why? Because they say, well, they didn't pass the eye test. The eye test is nothing but a political test. They're saying, well, they didn't look as good as Alabama. Would they have gotten destroyed? Yes. Everybody knows that. But you talk about the actual ethics in football, they never lost. And they won with guys who weren't their starting quarterbacks all year. To me, that says give them a shot. They've earned that. Whether or not you like that, and it's good for TV ratings, they've earned that. And so, yeah, I know, well, they wouldn't have been as good. Well, we still don't know that. We never saw the games and never will. But the fact that Georgia was number one and then Texas and Alabama, and nobody's ever lost, and they keep moving number one shows you that they are like a child going through puberty right now. They have no idea when the sun up and sun down is. They have no idea what's going on. And it's amazing to me that we place this billion-dollar industry in the hands of people sitting in a room determining what numbers people should be. I understand they're doing their best, and I think they're knowledgeable. But I think the system it's like, how do you stay number one? You don't. You just got to be the best eye test that week. I mean, it's crazy to me. I mean, Georgia has 6 losses. They lost Alabama, but they weren't number one when they lost. So who cares?
Yeah. Well, don't you think that it would just be a simple, something as simple as if everyone doesn't have a loss, then the first people that are in first place are like the people that have scored the most. Or just do something, but it's not based off of of that. It's just
it's based off of people sitting in a room that are experts that get moved in and out of that room every couple years. It's just crazy. A flawed system, and people always make the argument, well, there's so many teams. I get it. There's a lot of teams, but that doesn't make an argument for, 30 is a lot of teams. NFL has, 32 teams. MLB has more than 30. There's a lot of teams in all these things. You put them in divisions. And my thing is, your clear-cut division winners, they get free runs no matter what their ranking is. Why? They earned it. But then there's these at-large bids. That's going to be the controversy. My point is, I love college football, but what a mess. I mean, they have not been able to figure this out for, however long. What a mess. I mean, how do you move from number one? Anyway. Side note, I'll tell you the biggest problem in college football. UNLV's quarterback, they were 3-0. He went there from Holy Cross, I think it was. I think it's the name of the school. He went there. They were 3-0, and he left. And the reason he left last week was because they did not give him the $100,000 NIL deal that they said they were going to give him. The head coach said, I never told him I was doing that. That was an assistant coach. That wasn't my word. So the quarterback leaves. They get a new quarterback. They're 4-0 now. They're like, oh, we didn't need him anyway, or whatever they said. But the reality is this is a landscape of college football. A 3-0 QB left over an unfulfilled offer. I mean, something's got to be done. It's just a mess. Like, I don't know how anybody could look at this sport objectively and say this is great. I love to watch the actual games. Phenomenal. They're great. But all the stuff around it, it's such a sludge fest. It's just dirty and mucky, and nothing makes sense. Like, it's so unorganized, and I love it. But man, what a joke! You know what I'm saying? What a joke!
I hear.
So
you.
The good news is, and I love college football. I love it, and I watch it. But it is hard. When the games are on, it's great. Everything else around it, just frustrating. But listen, the baseball playoffs are on. Everybody loves a good baseball playoffs. They're one of the best things to watch ever. The Atlanta Braves, let's represent. We're there. Even though we lost the first game, I'm hoping they make it long enough to the weekend so I can wear my Braves jersey on Sunday. That's all I'm saying.
If they don't, I'm right there with you with the Orioles. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a tough night too. But, the Orioles and Braves both went limping in the playoffs. Something that is sad, though, with baseball is Oakland A's are moving. I can't imagine the Oakland A's being anywhere else other than Oakland. The owner just doesn't want them there. I mean, the reality of it is, at the end of the day, I guess he just doesn't want them there. They're saying it's money. I mean, there's a lot more involved than anybody knows. But, and then finally, something I need to mention, Dikembe Mutombo, our childhood star, 58. He died of brain cancer. And then Pete Rose, 83, all-time hits leader in Major League Baseball. He died. So those are sad. I mean, those are like childhood stars, right? Those are childhood memory guys. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is Pete Rose, wasn't allowed to get in the Hall of Fame. He was banned, lifetime ban, because he was betting on the game. And the interesting part about that is he was betting as a manager. When he got the hits, it's just the ban is it's the hardest, harshest sentence for anybody, in my opinion, at any level of sports. To ban them from the Hall of Fame. So, it's sad that he'll never see that on this side of heaven or hell, unfortunately. I don't know anything about Pete Rose's salvation, but I know that on this side of life, he'll never know that he made the Hall of Fame. And he wrote this really heartfelt letter years ago to the commissioner, and it was a no-go, and they used him as kind of a scapegoat of like, this isn't going to happen. So it is sad, man, that he died not knowing that he'd ever get in. I can't imagine they don't let him in now. I mean, the man is gone. How do you not let somebody in who's done what he's did? But anyway, hey, off to bigger and better things. What's your fun fact for the day?
Man, honestly, it's something today that both wildly impressed me, but at the same time frightens me. So it's weird.
I like where we're headed.
Yeah.
Coming into October, a little scary, a little frightening. I like it.
Yeah. I came across an article, and it has to do with AI. So like anything, it's one of those things. It's like, man, this thing is powerful and crazy and awesome. And at the same time, it scares me. So I tried it out. It's something called Notebook LM. And so if anyone who's listening, you can check it out yourself. Notebook LM. Here's the thing. We were talking about Chat GPT the other day, and even in staff meeting, kind of how crazy it is. But that's a database that pulls from the internet. It's just like, whatever knowledge it has, which is everything on the internet, it pulls information from there and helps you out with whatever issue you have. Well, Notebook
truly
LM,
amazing.
It really is. Notebook LM does something a little different. You upload your own documents and you create your own database that it then pulls from that database. So it's really good for, hence the name Notebook. It's really good for college classes. It's really good for anyone doing any kind of schooling. And so you can upload your documents, you can upload your notes, and then you can get great overviews. You can search things really quickly. But they have this new feature that is an audio overview. So I'm going to play a clip, and we're going to listen to it for a little while. Brandon, I just want you to listen to it. But for all the listeners, here's what I did. I took 3 documents from Palms Church, one of which being our dream team document. I took a Palms production document and a Palms worship document. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Balloons going
nice.
Up.
Balloons. Great.
Yeah. I fed them those 3 documents. And then all I did was upload those 3 documents, and then went to audio overview, and it spits you out a podcast, a 2-person podcast.
We're being replaced.
These people, bro, you just wait. These people are talking about those 3 documents that I uploaded. I did not give it any other prompt besides upload the document and hit audio overview. It took me 2 minutes, and this is what it spit out. All right. So we're going to listen to this together, and I want you to be as amazed and terrified as I was. All right.
Grab your popcorn, people.
So let's get into it. Our mission is to break down all these insider materials and figure out how Palms Church really works.
Okay.
What's the plan? What kind of culture are they building?
Well, they have that Dream Team welcome guide to start.
Dream Team!
Yeah, that's what they call their volunteers. And right away, page 1, they lay out their mission.
Okay.
Spreading the message of Jesus throughout Virginia Beach and beyond.
Wow. Ambitious. Not really surprising for an evangelical church, though, right?
True. Outreach and growth are big themes. But one thing that stood out to me looking at this is how Palms really stresses that every member should be a part of making that vision happen.
So, forget being in the audience. You're
Your manpower.
potential manpower. Wow. All hands on deck from day one.
Totally. And they really push that whole dream team thing.
Yeah.
You aren't just at a service, you're part of a movement.
A movement.
Yeah.
So they're pushing for that shift from the audience to being an active participant,
Yeah.
making a real impact.
And the language they use in this guide, it's interesting. It's not about us making an eternal difference.
Yeah.
It's like they're tapping into this very human need to have a purpose, to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And then to, I guess, guide everything. They have those core values, right? Starting strong with, it's not about us.
Yeah, definitely sets the tone.
Yeah.
And then you got honor everyone. Excellence is the standard. Discipleship through relationship.
They're not messing around.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not just, nice sounding phrases. They actually show how these values play out in different situations throughout the guide.
So how...
I'm just going to stop there for a second.
I want to keep listening. They make us sound pretty good.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I want to listen to the rest of it. I want to listen to the rest of it, man.
We can let's listen. Oh, well, there's
Keep it
9 minutes. It's 9 minutes.
We don't need
so
9 minutes. Give us another 60 seconds.
Okay, all right, here we go.
How does excellence is the standard look at a church? Am I picturing some really impressive potlucks?
Think bigger.
Yeah.
This is where the production value comes in.
Oh, right.
Remember, mega church. It's about creating an experience.
Right. Those immersive, almost concert-like services you see more and more now.
Exactly. And Palms Church is definitely investing in that same kind of atmosphere.
Speaking of investments.
How do you know, buddy?
Should we talk about their organizational structure?
Yeah.
Because the Dream Team Welcome Guide lays out this surprisingly complicated hierarchy.
It's like they read a business book. You've got the campus
Just say surprisingly complicated. I've not listened to anything past when they talked about the core values.
campus pastor at the top.
Wow.
Then directors, coordinators, coaches, captains.
Wait, hold on.
And then finally the dream team members.
Wow, that's a lot of layers. Do you think they do trust falls during sermon prep?
Maybe not. But to be fair, that level of structure, it makes sense when you think about how big this whole thing is.
Right.
We're talking huge numbers of volunteers.
Right.
To make that work, they need those clear chains of command.
Yeah, imagine if it wasn't organized.
Thank you, buddy.
at all. It'd be chaos. But it's not all about being strict and following the rules, is it?
Right.
The guide also talks a lot about how to behave, how to welcome newcomers, things like that.
Definitely. It's this fascinating mix of almost military style structure.
Yeah.
With this big emphasis on warmth and hospitality. They even have rules for stuff like parking.
Seriously?
Yeah, keeping your hands free so you don't have clutter and being welcoming to visitors.
So creating that seamless, positive experience from the second someone steps onto their property.
Exactly. It's about...
I mean,
there you go.
They're not wrong. I'll tell you what I like about it. It sounds like people. I really like it because what it is, it's actually giving me very good perspective on probably what people would say.
Yes.
And people don't expect the church. People don't expect the church to be I hear it all the time. Well, the church shouldn't be a business. Well, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. Because as a pastor, I have a responsibility to steward the things that God's brought into the church. And if you're going to steward it well, then you need to have a system and a structure in place so that way there are accountability. For instance, somebody comes to your door and says, I need this, I need a house payment, I need childcare. Well, you start paying, we had this conversation the other day, you start paying for people's childcare, you may lose your 501c3 because people don't know rules. They don't know business. And so what's gotten churches in a lot of trouble in the past is that God gives them more, God wants to do more, but we don't take our time to know the business. My master's degree is in organizational leadership. It's a business degree. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to be able to steward what God brought me, not the way businesses steward, but there is a lot of structure that businesses have. It's funny because in a business, you wouldn't say it's a militaristic business. You would say that's a business model. But for a church, when there's structure, they say it's a militaristic. And I know it's AI, but it's really what people would probably say. It's a militaristic structure. Why? Because you get in and you sit in the pew that has your name on it. And I mean, you know, the old school kind of feel. It's you do what you want, when you want, how you want at your church. But whenever you have churches that are growing and they're kind of pushing limits of things, there's structure built in. There's marketing teams. And these things are built because now, pastors, you do have to know business. You do have to know structure. If you don't want to, then be okay with your reach. But the reality is the world has changed a lot. And so it's funny because people don't expect churches to have that kind of structure. They don't expect churches to be built like that. But you can only grow to the place of you're built, meaning you can only reach as many people as you're able to disciple. And for me, it's not about the money. It's not about how the strategy is. It's not about the amount of campuses. It's about how many people can we reach. There's a lot of people that need Jesus. And so if it means we have to build structure so that we can support that, then so be it. But I actually thought it was very intuitive. I want to hear the rest of it once we're done here. I think it's very interesting.
So the thing that, like listening to it, just the cadence of the people, like, or the AIs themselves, the fact that every once in a while you'll hear, especially the guy, you'll hear him like stutter a little bit, or they're intentionally programmed to sound very human. And that's the part to me that is like, wow, this is
I've never played
crazy.
a video game. I've never played a video game where the commentators were better than that. And so my question is, why are the video game commentary for sports games not as good as this? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
What are we missing in the video game world that we can't do this?
But can you
That's
imagine
better than any video game commentary I've ever heard?
Can you imagine, like, you know, you just did all of your, doctorates and all that kind of stuff, like just uploading documents and then creating this, because this is what people are using it for right now too. Just like, it's a form of study. It's called Notebook LM. It's free. It's based off of Google. So it's something Google offers, and it's free. It's free for everybody. You can do this. So I think, like, for me, like, you could upload any document you want about any topic. You can create notebooks about each topic, and then you create this little button, and then you go listen to a podcast while you're mowing the grass or while you go for a walk. And it's like, you are digesting. Corey? Hey, there's little, you got chains of command for sure. But
that's funny. People
are saying, like, the craziest thing is, like, I read this one guy's article about he's studying in school, the crazy stuff about, like, cells and all sorts of, like, heavy science stuff. I can't remember what he was exactly studying, but he's like, it puts it in such layman terms. It's like the AI is giving me these complex scientific things, but saying it in a way that anyone can understand, and that helps you remember it. And so it's just, it's crazy. I was blown away when I had 2 minutes.
I feel like this past year, more than ever, AI has come onto the forefront. I know as a professor, they've told us you got to really look for AI in papers that are being presented, making sure they're actually being written. You can tell if it's AI by certain things, but honestly, it's getting harder and harder to tell if it's AI. And I think that it's one of those things you just got to be careful. There was a picture floating around of Donald Trump and waders walking through waters in North Carolina after the floods, and they're like, this is an AI. That's not a real picture, which none of us really believed it was real, but it looked real. And I think that's the danger of it, is right now, I want to know when it's going to take. How is law enforcement going to be able to tell if something's AI or not? Like, how are you going to be able to tell? Like, they could put my face or your face or anybody's face on a photo or a video. AI can do amazing things. There's going to be a time where you can no longer tell. You can no longer tell if it's reality or if it's fake. And I think that's the scary part, is when we venture into a world where I think all social media could very well become a complete fake reality. That, you know how we talked about, there was people buying like these virtual worlds, like, you know, Snoop Dogg paid this money, the guy paid like $500,000 or something like that to have a property right beside Snoop Dogg's in his virtual world, which I don't even know if those virtual worlds are still going. It might be crypto for all I know. Are they?
It just didn't explode like people thought it was.
Well, it's kind of like 3D. But what I think is going to happen is that over time, everything's going to become, we could very well live in a virtual world, because what's going to happen is we're going to be in the regular world where you can't trust anything you read or see anymore because of AI, to where people are going to just all be like, you know what, let's just live in a virtual world so none of it's real. Because I don't know if there's going to be able to make a difference. I don't think you're going to be able to tell the difference between reality and fake. And so I'm like, well, maybe people just have fun in this little virtual world and not take anything, take it at cost. I don't know. Maybe the TV is going to make a comeback, where the news is going to make a comeback, where it's like that's the only reality. So I think the internet is going to eat itself alive, where you're not going to be able to know what's real. And it's really there's going to probably federal stuff's going to probably come down on it. I mean, there's just going to be stuff, because humanity, we don't know when to stop. I mean, we're cloning sheep, and we don't know when to stop. We think that we can recreate life, but life had to. The thing that they don't realize is that you're creating life from already created life. You're not creating life from nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there's nobody's God, but I think that this AI is definitely something that is scary. I love parts of it, like stuff we're doing this, but I think you look in, maybe we're gone by that time, but 20, 30, 40 years from now, 50 years from now, 60 years from now, it's a scary world of like, what does that even look like? Like, how can you tell reality from, because if you're not there physically, how can you tell? You know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you this. You asked for it.
Don't blame me. You asked for it.
So I think this has changed a lot, but we have this thing called text message protocol. Now, I don't ever let people see if I've read my messages, because quite frankly, I'll read them and then mark them unread if I know I can get back to it, or if it requires a longer response. I don't like for guys like you, we're on staff together, we do a lot. Like, I'll hit you up with something, but if it's a big thing, a lot of times I try not to. I don't ever write books to people. I just send them an email, and I know email may be archaic to some, but it's a great form of being able to monitor what kind of, I don't expect people to do that to me, so I'd rather them email me if it's something big. I can get to it when I can get to it instead of, overwhelm the phone. But when you talk about text message and response time, for instance, my wife, she'll be like, yeah, I have a text message I need to answer. And I look on, there's tons of them. I'm like, how old are these? She's like, I don't know. Like, there's somebody who needed something. It's like 2 days. I'm like, 2 days? She just doesn't look at her phone a lot. And I'm like, man, that's like 2 days. That's like, I mean, if it was an emergency, they get a hold of me. But it's funny because Caden told me, he said, he saw this thing. He said, if I send a text message, I want a response in a couple of minutes. And he said, if I was going to wait a week, I would have sent you a letter carried by a pigeon. But what do you think protocol is? I don't think there is a protocol. But for me, if I get a text, I try to respond as soon as I see it if I'm available. Because if it's just a question, it's one thing. But if somebody's needing something,
here's my gut. Like,
because not a lot of people have my number, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's like my email is a great way for me to filter out stuff because it helps me organize. Text messages are hard to do that with, So that's why I send people to my email, because I can get to them just as fast. It just helps me organize what I'm doing.
So I am not a talk on the phone guy. I'm just not, never have been. I would actually rather FaceTime somebody than talk on the phone. So my view of text messaging is, respond pretty quickly. Because honestly, it's like, look, I'm doing you the favor. It just does it. I guess, like it's those things we talked about the other week on the video.
There's a thumbs up now. There's a fireworks behind Corey. We're not really sure what's happening, but and now it's thumbs down and it's raining. It's just there's a lot of interaction here. It's good.
There you go.
What was the lasers? How'd you get that?
Rock on.
Oh, rock on, man.
Yeah.
Sweet. I don't know. It's a rainy day, though.
So my feelings when it comes to text messages, it's like if someone's going to text me or if I'm going to text someone, hey, I'm doing you the favor of not calling you and not bogging you down or whatever. So, you don't have to do it instantly, but at your most recent convenience. But if it's like, days or weeks, or it's like,
can I tell you what surprised me the most with people in text messaging? I'll tell you this surprised me. There are people that I know are always on their phone. They're addicted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're always watching a video. They're always on social. They're always chasing Pokemon, whatever you have. Fill in the blank.
No. Yeah.
But when you text them, it takes a while.
Yeah. Yeah. They saw it. That's the thing. It's like, I know you're looking at your phone.
As much as when I'm with you, you were on your phone, there is no way that it's taking you 2.5 hours to see this text message because you are addicted. Yeah. When they're not talking to a human, their face is in their phone.
Well, I think it's what you're talking about.
I was just saying that as an illustration of like, there are people who use their phones for everything.
But I think that's what you're talking about. It's like people, they get a text message and they're like, well, I'll think about that in a second and I'll respond. And then they forget. So for me,
but see, if I forget, I usually don't remember till late at night when I'm scrolling and be like, oh, I forgot to text that back. But I always mark mine on red. Always. If I get it and I don't respond, I always mark it on red so I'll remember.
Yeah, like I don't mean to be mean, but I've responded to 2 text messages just since we've started this podcast because I'm just like, no, I can multitask. It
don't bother me. Yeah, that's not a big deal. We were sitting here. We had story time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So sometimes I just miss the old flip phone with T9. But then I realized there's no camera.
Everyone was texting
maps.
back then.
But then there's no maps. There's no music. I realized my phone is the epicenter of my life. You know what I mean? Do you remember your first cell phone?
I do. It was literally the Nokia like brick that like you couldn't
That's
break.
What I had. Yeah. I had a gold one. Like it was the greatest.
So do you remember Barrett Hall, obviously in Hagerstown there? I would chuck it from the stage all the way to the back of Barrett Hall and just nothing would happen to it. Perfectly fine.
Why would you do that?
I'd kick it. Because it was literally like it before it became the meme. Like it became a meme that like that was the like you can't break that phone. Well, I've proven it right. It just wouldn't break.
You can't make this stuff up, folks. All right. So moving on. I want to ask you a question. I want to state, before I say this, I want to make sure that people listening understand. I am one of the most, well, I don't want to say that because that's a little bit, maybe that's a little bit forward. If there's anybody, I have no problem with people trying to figure out who they are. Or if they're struggling with, they're transgender or listen, we all have stuff. So I have grace for people that are trying to figure out what it is their life looks like or I have grace for that. People want to be loved. They want to be included. They want to feel valued. And I'm 100% behind anybody that is searching, and I will love them and I believe in them 100%. I believe that God made everybody in his image, and his image is a beautiful image. And I think we're all trying to figure out what that is sometimes. I think we get lost in it, but I do think that. But what I can tell you is before I read this, I'm reading it because the Bible talks about how human wisdom is folly, about how it doesn't make any sense. And I think we've gotten to this conversation in society of, I don't even know all the terms, but different terms for like your sexual preferences, different terms for what you refer to yourself as. So my children have told me about something that happens a lot in schools called furries. And I don't know if that's like a slang term, but it's people who they act like animals and they wear tails. Kids in school are wearing tails because they think they're an animal or they identify as an animal. I mean, come on, people. I mean, there's got to be a line. So, but we allow it, and it's unbelievable to me, the depth of society. It just really is. I'm like, the world is folly. You're going to tell me that as a parent, you're like, yeah, she just thinks she's a cat. No, she isn't a cat. Like, come on, mom and dad. Like, step in. You know what I mean? Like, step in. It's one thing. It's even ridiculous when you say, well, I'm a boy, I'm a girl. It's ridiculous in that, like, there are physical things. You can change what those are, but you were a thing. You can't change how you were made, right? But to say you're a different animal, it's just as crazy, but it's like, we just don't stop. We don't stop. So what I want to do is, I think this: every person needs to be loved. Every person needs to be accepted. No, there should never be bullying under any circumstance. Bullying is a byproduct of jealousy, period. It's a byproduct of insecurity. It's a byproduct of you and things that you're working through. I don't care what anybody says. But I will say this. There has to be something, all right, where society is just turning into confusion when it comes to, we're not helping people because we let them become what they want. We're not helping people because, I mean, there's not even like gay and lesbian and straight anymore. There's so many terms that I don't know what they are. And I'm not researching it. I'm not doing a ton of research on it. They're like, well, you don't care. No, I care a lot. But that's not something I'm spending my time on, is the different, it just seems overwhelming, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read you something, and I want you to explain to me. This is a real thing. Okay, I'm going to read it to you, and I would love for you to explain to me. Now, I'm sure there's some of you listening like, well, that's easy to explain. This is what it is. But when I read this, I was like, I have no idea what this article is saying. And it's based on terms and things. And this is not me throwing shade at all. This is me saying, I do believe people have real identity issues. I do believe people are really struggling sexually. I do believe people are trying to find love. And I respect all of that. And I understand this is all things that everybody's walking through. And we as people need to have a ton of grace for that, because all of us have our own struggles. It may not look like a sexual struggle. It may not look like an identity struggle, but we all have them. And so this is me not pointing out. This is me trying to show you the wisdom of the world is complete. It's chaos. This is me absolutely standing on that pedestal for a minute. This is what I read. What does this actually mean? It says, my husband and I are poly, and I, in quotes, non-binary, have met a woman who happens to be a transgender and will be my future wife. My husband will be my best man, and my kids are excited to have 2 moms. This was an article. And I was like, I have no idea what they're saying. Because my husband and I are poly. Does that mean they'll sleep with multiple people?
Don't
look it up.
They're attracted. They're attracted to multiple genders. Yeah.
Okay. So
that's the only one I had to look up. Yeah.
It says, but I, non-binary. So what does that mean? What is non-binary?
So is it non or non-binary?
It says non-binary.
Yeah. So that would be you don't identify as any gender.
You're male or female.
I'm looking it up to confirm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it says, and I have met a woman who happens to be a transgender. So my question is it a man that's transgendered as a woman, or is it a woman who's transgendered as a man?
So what did they say? Read it again. It's what?
It says, I've met a woman who happens to be transgender.
Yeah, so it used to be a man.
But people that are transgender, they say refer to me as she. If it's a man trying to be a woman, or if it's a woman trying to be a man, say refer to me as he. So she says, I happen to met a woman who happens to be transgender. So is it a man that's transgender that she's going to marry?
It is biologically a man, yes.
But it says I've met a woman who happens to be transgender. So it's biologically a man.
A biological man that is...
It happens to be my future wife.
Yeah.
So this woman, her and her husband are poly, and she's non-binary, meaning she doesn't identify as a man or a woman. She's met a woman who happens to be a transgender, which you're telling me is actually a man that is transgendered as a woman.
Yeah.
And will be my future wife. So there's a woman who doesn't identify as a man or a woman, is going to marry a man who is transgender as a woman, but that man is going to be her future wife. So it's going to be a woman, and at the end of the day, it's a woman and a man. The man dresses like a woman. Yeah. The woman doesn't identify as anything, and they're going to be together. So in the end of the day, the woman has a husband. If you take all the terms out, there's a woman who has a husband.
Yeah.
And her husband's going to be her best man, but this woman is marrying a man who dresses as a woman, and that woman and man. So basically, there's 2 men, 1 woman. The woman's leaving 1 man for the other, but there's a lot of terms in between. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. That's my point. I had no idea. I know some of the terms, but I was like, I am very confused.
Mm-hmm.
My point is this. Again, people that are trying to find identity, no issue. People that are struggling, I get it, man. That's why Jesus exists. He's a great savior. Like, he'll save you. He'll help you. And it's not like, well, organized religion. It's all Jesus. He'll save you. He'll save you. I just recently watched that Netflix special with Will Ferrell, Will and Harper. And Harper was the writer for Saturday Night Live. Used to be a man. Now she identifies as a woman. Her name's Harper. And Will Ferrell made a 2-week trek across the country. And it was really There was some harsh moments in it. There was some things in it that I definitely don't agree with, and some things I do. It doesn't matter if I agree with it or not, but there was a really heartfelt love by Will Ferrell in that movie that I thought was very genuine for his friend. And I was like, man, that's cool that he didn't care about how much he was being ostracized. And I'm not saying as a friend you don't stand up and help lead a friend and you don't say, hey, man, let's help you find something. But I think he just supported his friend in some ways. In some ways, that was very endearing. In other ways, I may have done things different, but that's fine. It's not here or there. But I thought it was sweet because his friend just felt loved. Mm. At the end of the day, his friend that was a transgender man becoming a woman, in his mind, just felt loved. And I wonder how much could love transform? And I think the Bible tells us it will transform everything. And it was just really, man, it was good to see, like, this dude just loves his friend. And at the end of the documentary, the friend said, the thing that's amazed me the most about this is that he has just loved me as a friend. He's just loved me, and I just feel loved by him. And I'm thinking, what more powerful tool can God give us than that? To just love people. You know what I mean? Yeah. But my point is, the world is doing this to people. You tell me they know more about themselves now than they did then? Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's just like it's a need for. Again, we talked about this not too long ago too, the other week, but it's like it's almost this need for an identity that God has for you already. It's found in God. We all know that. Every single one of us have that kind of like gaping wound within us called sin and sin nature, and it's desiring to be, filled by God and the Holy Spirit. But if you don't know God, or you're not chasing after him, or you don't believe in him, you fill it with other things. And I think that's where all of these identities come from. Because once you come to understand more and more who God is, my identity is not all these other crazy things. My identity is just like, sure, we have earthly things. I get that I'm a dad. I get that I'm a husband. I'm not trying to undermine any of those things, but it is like who I am through the lens of Christ to then interact with the things I've been blessed and given and have the opportunity to have influence in this life. It's really as simple as that. And yeah, so I think it's a lot of searching. That's kind of my thoughts on it, my opinions on it. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. It's love. It absolutely is love, because if God is interjected into that conversation, then, the Holy Spirit does the work that the Holy Spirit needs to do. And so you look at a documentary like that and you're like, yeah, it's two people that don't profess to believe in God. Like, so I'm not going to throw stones. Like, that's not my job. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like, man, the world has made this a lot harder for people than it has to be. All the terms and all well, you're this, but you're not this. And then you actually identify as this. It's like, we've made it really hard. Like, if we would love people unconditionally, gay, straight, poly, non-binary, whatever they may be, and just love them and accept them the way they are, accept them, doesn't mean, people always say, well, I accept the sin, but not the sinner. It's like, or I accept the sinner, but not the sin. It's like, well, you're really not accepting the sinner then.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't mean you have to be okay with it and give a thumbs up and say, I'm all for it. But you can love people unconditionally, and let it be what it is. Like, Jesus just loved people. It didn't say he was, we make it like he's, like Jesus was just either really strict or he accepted everybody and every sin and was cool with it. He wasn't cool with it. Jesus was Jesus, though. He was a son of God. He was powerful.
He spoke truth. Yeah.
Yes.
But so,
in love, I don't feel like as my pastor, it's my job to love people and then tell them what they're doing wrong. I feel like the Lord corrected me that a while ago. He said, Brandon, I don't need you to tell everybody what they're doing wrong. You're not the religious police. You just love people. Just love them. Do I have times where I don't get along with people as well as I could have? Sure. Do I have times where people irritate me? Yes. Do I have times where I wish people would do things different? Yes. Do I speak my mind? Yeah. Do they speak theirs? Yes. But the reality is you can do it and still love people. I don't have anybody I can tell you that I honestly just do not love. There are people I've had to pray for love for, but I love people, even ones that You may say, well, man, there was aught or we had like friction. Yeah, but I still love them. Do I agree with everything they're doing? No. Do I love them? You better believe I love them. So that's all we have to do as Christians. We make it so much harder. I mean, we build these militaristic churches. No, really, it's just to love people. It's just to love people. You know what I mean? So I appreciate the podcasters calling us a mega church. You know, they could see that just from the.
They did.
Man, you guys are really forward, aren't you? It's never been the goal. The goal is people, man. It's just stay that way. So hey, final thought.
Here's my final thought.
Well, society, you owe an apology to everybody named Karen and everybody named Brandon. It's not fair. It's not fair to us.
I know where you're going.
You know, call everybody Karens who are doing things, and then, you know, let's go Brandon. You know what? My name is Brandon, and I like my name, but I have never felt so loved and judged all in one sentence in the last couple of years of my life. You know, maybe once this new election takes place, it'll be in the past, but my name has become a very political term, and I want to let you know, my name is Brandon, and people say, let's go Brandon. I take it personally, and I appreciate them cheering me on, okay? I appreciate it. But you guys owe an apology to every person. I know some Karens, and I'm talking people who have the name Karen, and they're great people, and they don't deserve this kind of abuse, okay? Are you listening to me, world? Because they don't deserve it. Brandons, we're great people. We're great. When you say, let's go, Brandon, I am taking it personally. I want to thank you in advance for the way you cheer me on. That's all I got to say about that. Lord, I thank you for each and every listener. I pray that today, wherever they're at, that they would know you see them, that you have created them for beautiful and wonderful things, and that, Lord, you've never given up on them. You never will. God, I pray right now for every family, that wherever their struggle may be, that they would know that you're right there in the midst of it. God, for every marriage, for every person out there looking for a husband or a wife, for every person out there that's walking in singlehood, whatever it may be, that they would know that, God, every step, they're not taking alone, but they're taking it with you. Father, I pray right now over Palms Church. I pray over the people. I pray over each and every kid that's in school today. I pray that, God, you would go before us, that Holy Spirit, that we would follow your footsteps. We love you. And I'm so grateful for every listener. I pray they would sense that you're with them, that they don't have to do anything to earn your love, that you love them regardless of what their life looks like. You are still so in love with them. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, Palms, we'll see you this weekend. We start a new series, Ghost Stories. Can't wait to see you there. We'll see y'all.